Hello, how are you, everyone? I am Shannon Stott, and welcome to the Pieces Collective monthly wisdom wellness, and wealth program. You are in the right place at the right time. That's just obvious because you're here. I am welcoming you. I am hoping that you are doing well. I hope that your 2023 is off to a great start. We've done so much here at the Pieces Collective to get you there and get you inspired. And we're still at the very beginning. So we get to do this very nice. We get to come together for this very nice program so that we can start talking about our bodies, getting connected to our bodies. And before I just jump in all the way, I would love to hear from you in the chat. Go ahead and start warming up your fingers because they're going to have to be warm with all the questions that are going to come, that are going to flow through them, and all the comments that you are going to make for our wonderful panelists today. Before we get into the panelists, though, we do have to do one thing. First off, I want to remind you that we are talking about walking our way to health today, walking our way to health step by step. And to get us started, let's hear some words of wisdom from the Pieces Collective's Ikrama Muhammad, Executive Director of the Pieces Collective. Thank you for bringing us together, Ikrama.
Greetings, Shannon. How are you?
Oh, I'm ready. This is one of my favorite ones. I mean, we have a lot, but I really love talking about fitness and getting right in there.
Yeah, in March, it seems like it's chock full of a lot of observances, etc. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
I mean, the spring season starts in March. The holy month of Ramadan begins in March. We have National Craft Month. National Nutrition Month is March, and of course, Women's History Month. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, because we all know and love a woman somewhere, somehow, because we all came into being through the agency of a woman. So I'm going to talk about some things, the things that are going well, that's good, and we're happy for that, but change lies in what's not going so well and what we can do to improve it. So one of the things is that we have 388 million women and girls who live in poverty around the world. 77%, women earn 77% less than men around the world. U.S. women earned an average of 82% of what men earned. White women earning 79 cents on the dollar, Black women earning 68 cents on the dollar, and Hispanic and Latino women earning 58 cents on the dollar. So there's an estimated 20.9 million women living below the poverty line in the United States. And this impacts health and education and has other social impacts. Along with that, we can estimate that 828 million people globally are affected by hunger. 53.6 million people in the United States live in what is defined as food deserts, and that's 17% of the population. Our health is affected adversely as women: cardiovascular disease, COVID, cancer, reproductive health. All these conditions are identified as having higher morbidity and mortality rates among women. And in the Black community, the large disparities in healthcare, particularly in prenatal care. And about 4 out of 5 African American women are overweight or obese. Another very, very important issue that we don't talk a lot about is human trafficking, which is a nice name for slavery. They call it human trafficking. Modern slavery is really slavery, and 27.6 million people are trafficked worldwide. 65% of them are women and girls. 70% of those trafficked across international borders are female, and 50% are children. So we have a lot to deal with and a lot of improvements to make as we look at National Women's History and International Women's Month. 1/4 of women have been diagnosed with depression or anxiety, and it's no wonder with those statistics. But now that I have completely depressed you, maybe, we want to look at the bright side and what are some of the solutions. There's 3.8 billion women in the world, and we have the power to put an end to this madness. There's a saying that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And so we have an obligation as the first teachers, first doctors, first leaders to make change. How do we make change? Well, all things originate as thoughts, and therefore we can change things by changing our thoughts. As makers, we're familiar with this process at some level because we're always creating. We make things. So we're familiar with the process of making something from what someone else might think is nothing, and taking raw materials and making them into something beautiful and useful. In other words, changing thoughts into things. And we do it all of us do it to some extent all the time. So poverty, oppression, injustice, inequality, all of these things that might seem like generational curses can be generational blessings if we turn it around. And we were born to put an end to these so-called curses. As mothers, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, we were primarily responsible for imparting thoughts into our children, thoughts, values, culture of the society. We are the carriers of life and the caretakers of love. So we must put an end to these plagues that we're experiencing. I thought it was a beautiful example. I read an article about the sisters at Standing Rock, and there were some questions that Sister LaDonna Brave Bull asked of the sisters that were at Standing Rock. She asked, when did we as a people lose our self-empowerment? When did we wait for a government to tell us whether or not we could have health care? When did we wait for them to feed us? When did we wait for laws and policies to be created so that we could have a community? When did that happen? And I think we have to ask ourselves the same thing. We kind of know when it happened, but we have to bring that back forward to the mind. And if you don't know about the women at Standing Rock, this is just a short shameless plug. You can go to thepiecescollective.org and subscribe and sign up for our newsletter. And one of the upcoming issues is going to tell you a little bit more about them and some other courageous women in our community. So Proverbs 31:25 says, she is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. She laughs without fear of the future because she knows she has the power to shape it and help create it. So as we think about spring cleaning, cleaning our houses, ridding ourselves of clutter, things we don't need, as we think about cleansing our bodies and getting in shape for summer, we should also think about a mind cleanse, to cleanse our minds of the thoughts that are created, that produce the outcomes that we see here that we don't want anymore. Identify the things that are plaguing us, our families and communities, and decide the kind of thoughts that we need to think and the kind of people we need to grow into to manifest the change that we need. Thoughts to build leadership, leadership that chooses to act for freedom and self-determination, so our generations will survive and so that we can laugh and have no fear of the future. So we have a great panel for you tonight to share their expertise on fitness and walking benefits. And I just wanted to also announce that the registration for the Pieces Collective's third Juneteenth Walk for Wellness is open, and you can we invite you to walk with us, and you can visit us and register at thepiecescollective.org/events. So we're looking forward to this panel tonight. I want to thank our panelists for the generosity of their time, and I want to thank you for coming. We appreciate you. We hope you enjoy and are inspired to action. Peace and love.
With us and walk into your new body.
I love this. I'm excited for us to get right into it. So thank you, Ikrama. And let's introduce our panelists. We have Reverend Faith Bell. Reverend Dr. E. Faith Bell has over 30 years of fitness experience. She has taught for nonprofit Fit with Faith LLC and was a former contractor to military bases in Europe. She also ranked in the top 5 competitors for IDEA Worldwide 2020 Instructor of the Year. Welcome, Reverend Faith Bell.
Hey, Shannon, how are you? I'm always glad to be here.
We're always glad to have you because we know that we're at least going to get one stretch in. When we see you, we're like, I can feel people like, okay, I'm going to get a stretch in today. I can feel them thinking that.
We try our best.
Right? We also have Michelle Mills. Michelle Mills retired as an investigator with the Office of Inspector General in Virginia on March 10th, 2023. Michelle's passion is to help people understand that spiritual and physical healing cannot be separated, because if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. 1 Corinthians 12:26. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about what we're going to be discussing today, and just excited and thankful for the invitation.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We know this is going to be a good conversation.
Yes.
And we have Audrey Muhammad. Audrey Muhammad is a writer, educator, fitness instructor, inspirational speaker, and founder of Mothers of Civilization Day, a new national day. Mrs. Muhammad has authored 5 books and 1 audiobook. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and a Master of Arts in English from Bowling Green State University. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I want to thank all of the Pieces Collective staff, and I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight.
Me too. Okay, so I do this every time. This is for you 3. It's also for everybody watching. I have an opening question, and this opening question is, what is something you do that always makes you feel more connected to your body? This is the thing. It can't be exercise. Something else. Audrey, are you ready to answer this question? What's something
Sure.
that you do that makes you feel more connected to your body?
Something that I do is just take a moment, and everyone take a deep breath in and out. Just got connected to our body. And it's a reminder of what we can control. It's a reminder to take a pause and take a moment. So just doing that uh, always helps me to feel more connected, and just say a prayer of gratitude to the Creator for the ability to do that. And oftentimes we don't think about breathing. So that's just one.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Faith.
Mine is a stretch, if you would think about it. Don't laugh, Michelle. And it gets you in tune with yourself as far as your limitations are concerned, and certainly what you are capable of doing. So getting up in the morning and just doing a regular stretch. So just do that for a minute. Everybody just go
See,
up and
didn't you
raise
know?
up. And as far as you can, take it out and down. And then breathe and release. And there you've gotten a bunch of energy. You've gotten your breath, Audrey. You certainly have inhaled, and then you've exhaled, which in sometimes Tai Chi, which I've gotten since the last time we've been together, Shannon, is an ability to take that energy and to mobilize it for what you need.
That's a big one. I love that. And Michelle, something you do that connects you to your body. We're also asking you in the audience.
Okay. So mine is eating. You can't really talk about exercise without talking about eating. And I just can't think of any better way to be mindful of my connection to my body, without thinking about the foods that I put into my body. Yeah, exercising is one thing, and that was hard, Shannon. So I had to really think about it, because I'm thinking like, all right, well, when I put my clothes on, and when I think about what I was supposed to eat or what I was not supposed to eat, I'm thinking about my body. When I look at my body and when I think about my self-esteem and what I feel about myself and how other people perceive me, then I think about my body. So mine is just being mindful of what I put in my body. And that does not mean perfection, because that does not exist. It's just taking control of those things that you can control.
Excellent. Yeah, can let's start on this chat, okay? Let's start on this chat about the mindfulness, being mindful of what we put in our bodies. I know that people watching, and of course nobody here though, so no one here is ever just reaching for something and putting it in their mouth without thinking about it. None of us do that. And so I'd love just to talk about forgiveness for ourselves, right? And mindfulness. How do we balance those things, being mindful, and then when we're not mindful, how do we forgive? Just let's start there.
So I'll jump in. One of the things is the consciousness of mind. So thinking about it ahead of time. And so when I'm traveling, I'm preparing. So I don't care if it's from here to the church. I'm going to put a basket of fruit. I'm going to pack it up. So when I have to think about the fact of stopping for those French fries versus what I already have in there, then I'm going to be conscious enough to take advantage of what I've done to properly prepare for myself. But you're right, Shannon. I have this bad habit of stress eating with barbecue potato chips. I won't even and I'll forgive myself afterwards. What I'll simply do is saying, okay, you're going to take a couple of them. It might wind up being a bag, but I'm going to offset it and say, okay, you've done it, and continue on. So the consciousness of mind to control it. And when you do fall into a weak area, not to feel that you've contaminated yourself, that you will not be able to bounce back.
Good point.
Yeah. Anyone else on that one? Balancing that mindfulness and forgiveness.
I'll jump in here. I think so. As a personal trainer, women come to me all the time and they say, all right, I want to keep these and I want to keep this, and I want a flat stomach, and then I want these large legs. And one of the things I remind them is, like, it was good when you were 15 and when you were 13, and when you were 18, but we have to realize where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we don't forget about the past. Go ahead and take those pictures out because maybe it's inspiring. Put them on a refrigerator, but just be mindful of where we are right now and what we can do right now. And the other thing is, don't be so hard on yourself. When I start training people, sometimes they come to me with a defeated mind. And I tell them that they make my job harder because it's my job to inspire you and to motivate you. And so when you come to me below zero, it's just so much energy to bring you back up. So all right, this is where you are, and it's okay. Let's start with the things that we can control. Just be positive. Think about what's good instead of what's bad first. Okay, you might be a little bit heavier than you were 3 years ago, but we're still here. So I think focusing in on the positive allows you to forgive yourself and be kind to your body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about that, focusing in on the positive. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. As women, we come into lots of situations where the thing that's bringing us in is the negative, right? I'm going to the gym because negative. I'm getting my hair done because something negative. I don't like this about myself. I don't like that about myself. So how do we get in a frame of mind where we're turning that and we are focusing on the positive?
That's a very good point. I love what Faith and Michelle mentioned. There's a saying that energy flows where attention goes. So if we're focusing on the positive and gratitude for our body, just as Michelle mentioned about being mindful what she puts in her body, one of the books that really enlightened me was a book called How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he talked about that connection between the body and the mind, because we know if we're stressed, we may reach for certain things, and we understand that. But if we're looking at um, eating more like I love myself and being mindful of that, and sure, we treat ourselves with, oh, I'll give a little chocolate or things of that nature, and that's fine. But looking at how important it is to feel good, and I don't like feeling bad, and having that guilt about something. But when there was a study, I was listening to a podcast. There was a study where they told maids, housekeeping people that just the information, just the knowledge of knowing that the more you move, that's helping your heart, and you're taking the stairs and you're doing things, because knowledge does empower. So that's what I love about this panel this evening, is that we're sharing knowledge that is going to motivate and inspire. So I would say focusing on that positive more than what you didn't do, or like someone said about our size. I'm not trying to be a size 2. The last time I was a size 2 was when I was 2. Okay, I was taller, right? So I know that that's over, right? So I just want to feel good about myself. So just shifting that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's terribly important. One of the things, and I appreciate you too, Michelle, is that when we come into a situation as females, we usually come in with a negative mindset when it comes to our bodies. I don't care if you're the old 36, 24, 36. There's still something, there's a pimple on your face that you feel like, oh, if I could just get rid of this one pimple, because as Michelle says, we look for perfection. One of the tools that I use constantly is letting folks know my imperfections. Because being a trainer, the expectation is, yeah, you're going to be up all the time. You're going to be fit all the time. You're going to look good all the time. And it was one class that I went to that I told my class that I didn't do a specific exercise, and it was an aha moment. And that aha moment was, you don't? No, I don't. And it's the process of knowing what's best for you And one of the big things that I tend to do is say, compete with yourself. You don't compete with anybody else around you. You compete with yourself, and you go from there in order to build up the stamina, which is best for you. And then look at yourself in the mirror and look at yourself naked and appreciate yourself.
There's a big that look at yourself naked and appreciate yourself is a big thing. I'm gonna ask you, as Black women, the feedback that we sometimes get out in the world is to not appreciate who we are. And I'm wondering if you can all just talk about how you combat some of that feedback.
Who wants to go first? Okay. All right. So
let me dive
go
straight
Michelle.
into
Go
this one.
Michelle.
Okay. All right. I'm not even holding my breath for this one right here. All right. So I haven't eaten French fries in about 4 or 5 weeks. I never thought that could have been done, because when I go to a restaurant, it's how I treat myself. I say I deserve it. I want it. I like the way they taste, and I want no judgment from anyone. One of the things I realized now that I have been free from French fries is how good I feel. That my stomach, gosh, I never would have believed that it has actually gone down, but I wasn't really looking for my stomach to go down. It was just me giving up something. And so it just made me realize that without those things, that I am better. And so this is what I have to say. I'm not going to say stay off social media. And you can see, I see my name is going across. There's no Facebook, there's no Instagram. And it's not because I think it's bad. One, I just don't want to focus my attention on that, because I just feel like it's going to take me somewhere that I really don't want to be. And some people are good at controlling it, and some people aren't. It's just not where I want to be. So I would just say, one, if you can just pull back from social media a little bit, if you can disconnect yourself from all of the actresses that have had plastic surgery, that have makeup artists, that have chefs, that have personal trainers that probably sleep in their homes, then you will realize just how beautiful you are, and how you're good, and you're not making a comparisons against what you see.
Very good point. And I would say that as an educator, and as a Black woman, even growing up and struggling with how I looked and my hair and things of that nature, but we are creators, we're the second self of God. No one gets on this planet without the vehicle of a woman. And we were the first on the planet. That's why I have started Mothers of Civilization Day, because we are the ones that gave birth to everyone. But one thing I would encourage us as women to do is to use that creative energy that we all been blessed with and create some positive outcomes. So not only can we do things for ourselves, but for others. One thing I did was I used my creative energy. I like to write. Writing is an exercise. So I wrote a children's book, and Rhymes of the Times. And one of the first rhymes, the very first nursery rhyme I wrote was "Pretty little black girl, smart and brave. You don't need a perm or a nouveau wave." So that was just something
Nice.
to as an exercise of using my creativity. And we get these wonderful ideas when we're in movement, when we're walking, when we're things come to us as our mind gets clear. So that's one thing I would just encourage sisters, just to use your creative energy, channel that positivity.
Yeah.
And I appreciate both of you. I think those are great things, and I thank you for that. One of the things that I try to get people to do is to accept themselves. And I do that by reaching back to ancestries. It's, I go outside and I sit, and when it's hot outside, I say, gosh, it's hot, but imagine what my forefathers or my foremothers went through in the cotton fields. And I do an appreciation of connectivity. when there's imperfections that I look at, and it's not easy. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to admit to anyone that it's easy. I mean, I have ankles which belong on, as the old folks used to say, a rat tail in a can if you're from the country, right? And so I learned how to wear heels to extend my ankles to make them look fatter than they are, until I had to get to the realization that's my mama's ankles, that's my daddy's ankles. And let me appreciate where I've come from and where I am now. The difficulty is because we do get caught up in so much. And we as leaders, we as female leaders, have a tendency to feel that we always have to be at our extreme best. There will be times that we will have to just accept where we are, and then again accept that and better ourselves in our own condition. So learning how to accept where you are. So everyone has said the nowness of today, and being grateful for where you are. In the age category I am, it is encouraging people that if you can get out of bed, and be grateful that you can get out of bed. If you cannot get out of bed, I don't give you an excuse. There's too many things you can do while you're in the bed, and if you can just do that and satisfy the fact that what you need to do is be grateful for wherever you are, then we'll get better. We'll proceed. We'll progress.
Yeah, let's keep talking about this understanding of body. We have some really amazing thing. We have Cherie King saying, I'm going through the hair loss stuff right now and embracing it. You're right here as I go through the process. And thank you for sharing that, Cherie, because it seems like we tend to go to other things. Like society says to us, are you losing your blank? Are you gaining some blank? Are you whatever it
Good
is?
point.
And here's the cream, here's the pill, here's the right, whatever it is. And there is a disconnect from understanding how our bodies work as they age, as we are different races, different heights, different all sorts of things. And can you all talk about just the importance? Where do we start? What is the importance of understanding our bodies, and where do we start understanding our bodies?
Knowledge is power. And one thing that we have not done is, I'm going to use this word accept quite a bit tonight, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, is the fact that we will age, things will change, muscles will not form the way that they used to form simply because of the elasticity within the skin. I will say what Michelle's point is, we are what we eat. And that includes hair as well. Now, some is hereditary. So when you go back to the hair, you got to say, what happened to my ancestors again? And how do I form there? And what makes things comfortable for you? So most of the point is the fact of saying, am I comfortable with where I am and how my body is reacting? And if you're not, it's our job as educators and trainers to help you realize what you're capable of doing and not doing, and accepting that piece. The hair loss piece, you're either going to take a wig and put it on, you're going to accept the fact that you're going bald. Those who go through chemo have to do the same thing. There are vitamins, there's minerals, there's things that you eat depending upon what the gravity of your hair loss situation is, and then learn what you can do and accept it. Cherie, thank you for being here. She's one of my clients, and certainly she is active in every way possible. But it's, again, Audrey, what we're talking about. What do I look like in the mirror? Oh no, I got bags. I've got crow feet, ladies, okay? And I wake up every morning saying, okay, should I go and get this tied back? And then, and then I have a partner who helps me, who says, but I love you even if you were bald-headed, And so then gravitate around folks who will help you appreciate you while you're appreciating yourself. I yield the floor.
Excellent points. I love how you said, the acceptance of ourselves. And there's a saying that Elijah Muhammad, who taught Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, he said, accept your own and be yourself. And as women, when we look at other women maybe getting, and even us, we're, getting butt lifts and all these things,
Oh, yeah.
accepting who we are, that, that wasn't something that I was given, certain areas, but loving myself, that, okay, I wasn't endowed in that area, but there are other areas. And so when we again appreciate some of the blessings that we have, there's a saying that expression is the opposite of depression. So when you express gratitude for the things that you have, and each day, our bodies are so amazing. Each day, we're creating new cells. And if I cut myself right now, my body immediately goes to work to start repairing that little cut. It could be a paper cut, and it's some brand new skin. So when we look at, we are what we eat, and if I'm feeding myself live food, fruits and vegetables, my body continually has good material to create. So, and like she says, as Faith said, certain things are hereditary, and certain things are, because of maybe an illness or things that we have, but we can always look for avenues to just strive to get better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about the comment about hair loss, and it made me think about, I guess it was the 60s and the 70s when afros were being worn, and then that was the thing. And I don't know what happened to the era when the bald heads like were the thing. I have a good friend who is experiencing hair. Actually, she has experienced hair loss, and I know how it's making her feel, because hair sort of symbolizes us, right? Like when people look at you, you have good hair, you have thick hair, you have fine hair, and without taking away her reality, because her reality is that she lost her hair. I just tell her, look, these hair clips I'm wearing, it's not mine.
Right.
These are the things now. They have the headband things, and when you get our age, who wants to be bothered with hair anyway? So we are living in a time, just grab your wig and just do whatever you want. You can grab your purple one, you can grab your red one, you can do a blonde, just embrace it. And the other thing I was going to say about just kind of like embracing who we are. I have had in the past 2 years 2 hip replacements, and I am not ashamed to say it. And this is why. And it's about my perspective. Yes, I've had hip replacements. Yes, I did have it at a very young age. It was impeding my lifestyle. So I made the decision, although people were saying, don't do it. You're too young to do it. And I'm like, look, I'm not going out with a limp. I'm just not doing that as a personal trainer, but I understand who I am. And I always put, but I had a hip replacement, but I am walking so much better now. I had a hip replacement, but I am no longer in pain. If my hair were to fall out, I would get the best wig. If I couldn't afford my wig, I would make my wig. I would consult with someone, because life really is about perspective, right? It's just how you look at it. You can either look at, and I know that people say this all the time, you can look at the glass half empty, or you can do full. I choose to look at the glass half full.
Excellent. One of
Well,
the things,
and Shannon, I'm sorry. One of
don't
the
be.
things, Michelle, that you bring up, and is the fact that there are the diversity of people within the same genre should be acceptable wherever you go. So we as Black females have the ability to do so many shapes, sizes, looks, and be capable of rocking them. I'm sorry, to the best of our ability. What we have a tendency to do is take too long to make the decisions. And what I would encourage Cherie and anyone else is, don't stay in that decision-making process too long. Accept where you are, learn the alternatives, pick one of them, and pick a couple if you want to, and try them out for the best. One of the clients that I had was a young person, and her aunt had to have chemo. All the hair fell out. She came in and she's one with a full set of hair with a bald head because she had someone that she was helping through the process. The other thing that we have a tendency to do with all the varieties and diversities within the Black or Afrocentric model is the fact that we got a tendency to support each other. So Cherie, we're here to support you, girl. Hair falling out, no problem. Get a wig. If you don't want to get a wig, get a weave. If you don't want to get a weave, go bald headed. And we're gonna tell you how good you look regardless. You know why? Because Black Panther came out a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Everybody looked good with a bald head.
Oh my gosh, so good. You hit it, Faith. You hit it, and I knew you would. The last bit of that you're talking about is community, and each of us has mentioned it. Each of you have mentioned it in a different way. Faith, you were talking about your partner. Michelle, you were talking about your clients. Audrey, you're talking about who's training Malcolm X. You know, we're talking about the community coming together. So will you all talk about the importance of not going at this alone, this exercise, this feeding our bodies well? What is the importance of having community around you?
Definitely what we're doing now, because we're sharing our stories. We're sharing some of the things that we do. And we love that sisterhood, you know, that sisterhood that we can share our ups and downs, and someone else has already been through what we have been through, and that encouragement. And sometimes we forget about that and we lose it. Just as Sherry is saying, thank you, ladies. You know, we got you, whether it's virtually or whether we're in person. We have to continue to build one another up. And I love this energy this evening as we're putting out that positivity and just sharing. Like I said, it starts with sharing our stories, and it's good to know that I'm not the only one that has been through either the French fry or the potato chip addiction, you know. So it's something that we all go through, and nobody is perfect. So I just love, like I said, we have to continue to share our stories and not just act like, oh, I've never eaten this, I never eaten that. But hey, it was I know I was more like, when I would share, I was a stress eater. If in school, I need something to munch on. And I heard Oprah say she likes crackers, and it was like the crackers would absorb some of that tension. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I reach for certain things, because I'm trying to absorb some of that tension. But just her sharing her story gave me an idea. Okay, what else can I chew on that can give me that crunch? And I started using carrots, because carrots are crunchy, you know. So it's sharing our stories.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would say also just I don't know if maybe it could be pride. Maybe it's just being afraid. Maybe I don't know what it is, but ask for help. You know, I just believe that God places people in our lives. I just do. I just believe that the angels are all around us. And if it is something that you want, it is something that you need, just ask. You have to ask. Now, this example has nothing to do with health. Well, it really does, but this is a perfect example. When my mother was dying, I was doing everything myself, and I was taking her to the hospital. I was taking her to her chemo appointments. You know, I was trying to make sure she was comfortable. And I have a big family, but as long as I was doing it, no one said, hey, Michelle, do you need any help? They were probably saying like, great job, Michelle, and I went outside one time. I was walking my dog, and I guess I don't know if I just hit rock bottom, but I just kind of dropped down to my knees and I started crying because I was like, I just don't know how much of this I can take. But I never asked anyone. That next day, I went to work. I started an Excel spreadsheet. I sent out an email. I made calls. People were picking her up. Someone was dropping her off, but I had to ask for help. So when we talk about the community, when we talk about, wanting the help first, you got to ask, you got to communicate that to someone. And I just believe that God puts people in our lives and that person is so near to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a comment or just a question. Yep, there it is. Any tips for stress eating?
Sure. I've been, I'll say plant-based for probably, maybe about 10 years now, at least 7 years now. But I do notice that when I do get stressed, again, it's the barbecue potato chips, just no way around it. But the tips for stress eating is to know your triggers. That's the first thing. And most of us do know it. Most of us know that if we get around a certain person, or if we've obligated ourselves too much, or if we have too many things to do, if we have a do out, which is what we used to call them, and it's mandatory that I have it done. If we've got the kids, the husband, the church, the exercise group, and everything being on us at the same time, know what you can do to structure your time around that. Try to give yourself a break when it comes to stress eating, because what's going to happen is once you burn yourself out at both ends, there's no way around it. What you're going to do is you're going to grab some. That's the reason they call it comfort food, simply because it gives you a sense of emotional stability that you don't get otherwise. It could be a milkshake. It could be, at one time it was banana splits for me. So know what your triggers are and be able to steer yourself away from those triggers. And then the preparation piece. Being prepared, as I said before, which is I'll have something handy there that if it does happen, then I've got grapes instead of having a candy bar. I don't know when's the last time I've had a candy bar. So am I perfect? No. But being able to recognize those triggers is, I think, one of the most effective ways of doing so.
I want to sit on that a little bit, and I'm going to push against you, Faith, just a tiny bit, because Michelle was talking about earlier, just awareness, bringing awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you said, most of us know what our triggers are. And I remember probably a year ago now, you and me, were probably talking about exactly this. And I remember being like, absolutely, I know what my triggers are. And through this year, I've come to realize that I was wrong. And it took a year to just like really be aware of when I was eating. And I noticed one of the places I eat is after naps. I'll take a nap. And I won't even think about it. I'll just get up and be like, oh, I'm hungry. And I'll just eat after naps. And I didn't clock that as a trigger. I didn't clock it as something that was not wrong or bad, but a habit that I was in. I didn't clock it as a habit I was in. And I have a feeling that there are many people watching that probably when you say, notice what your triggers are, maybe they have like, oh, I get hungry when, I'm at a football game. But I want you all to talk about how we become aware of what a trigger means. Yeah. What does that mean? And how can we start recognizing our patterns? Because that's what we're talking about, right? A pattern or a trigger. When are we eating? Because it was so weird. I'm eating.
No, and you had every right to push back on me when you say it that way. So no, that was good. That was perfect. Because that was an idle moment of saying that everyone knows, and realizing that I'm sitting around experts right now, but everybody online does not. So you are absolutely correct. The point is, and so then you start logging it in. You start noticing it. You start trying to log it. You start saying, oh, that's why I'm doing this. So there's that conscious piece of it. So make a log. I know we hate logs. I used to hate logs myself, but until you recognize it, you're absolutely right. Figure out exactly what ticks, I will say it, what ticks you off or motivates you to start eating what you don't want to eat. And then once you've come up with that pattern, around the house, people get tired of me saying, that's a data point, that's a data point, that's a data point. And they're so tired of hearing about data points, because then you know how to react to them. So you're right. You found out that when I go to sleep and wake up, I want something, right? Some medications force you to eat, and you have to push back sometimes and ask the doctor, is there something else? Or how do I handle this? When you stop smoking, okay, you decided for Lent, I'm not going to smoke. So here you are, all in the realm of trying to be holy and sanctified and all that good stuff, and, blessed by the Lord. And at the end of the 40 days, you're 5 pounds heavier than you were because you gave it up. You have to know, and that's what we help you do, help you know what the reactions chemically are. So you're right. There's a lot of triggers that you're going to have to start trying to put in your database or your Excel's spreadsheet like Michelle does, and say, that's where the trigger is. This is how I need to handle it. This is how I need to recognize it. It could be something as easy as your dog ticks you off because they don't come back when you want to. And then you say, okay, I need to go get something, right? I'm yielding the floor, ladies.
Wonderful points. I think of the habits that we have, just like we've been conditioned to eat popcorn when we watch a movie. It's just a habit. And
buttered popcorn, Audrey, buttered popcorn.
Yes, butter popcorn, plenty of salt, right? So when I think about the pandemic, and we couldn't go to the movies, and we're sitting at home, and I noticed that my steps have gone down dramatically because I wasn't walking around on campus and everything. But I started becoming more active I replaced the habit. So that's the point I'm about to make. 2 thoughts can't occupy the same space at the same time. So instead of eating, I decided to do, and it drove my husband and my family crazy, like, are you doing sit-ups? I'm like, I'm doing something while we're watching the movie, because usually I would eat, right? So I just replaced that habit with something that was more positive, that made me feel good. Now, it took a while to do that, as I, replaced some of the chips with banana chips, or with, things like that. But I loved how I would feel after just getting in, a couple sit-ups or something like that. Looking at what can I substitute, because habits are hard. There's a really good book called The Power of Habit. And sometimes when we're conditioned, like this person was going to the store buying a cookie or something like that, and going to buy a cookie, but it was just the socialization of being able to say hi to someone, and that whole habit of, oh, I get a chance to chit chat. Not that, but of course I'm going to buy something while I'm there at the bookstore or whatever, or the corner store. But looking at those habits and what things can we tweak, and part of that is like writing down the log and looking at how we feel. All of that is a part of it, because we're getting to know ourselves, and we want to become experts in ourselves.
Good point.
Yeah, I want to follow behind you, Audrey. You were talking about like replacing some foods. So what I find sometimes is that when people start replacing foods, they eat more of the thing that they replaced it with that they thought was healthy, and it's really not. Like the vegetable chips, like Michelle, I love barbecue
Right.
chips, but here are the veggie chips. Look, they're made of like string beans. I got some in the cabinet back here, like no kidding, I really do. But then when I found myself doing, I don't even eat string beans. Okay, that's number one. But now I'm eating these string bean chips, and it's processed. And I'm like, gosh, like what have you done? So sometimes we have to be careful about replacing some of the foods. And you're right, though. The carrots, something crunchy. I don't know what to replace, like with the salt. I really don't know what you replace with a candy bar. But sometimes we just have to be careful with, replacing one for the other. One of the things that works for me too is you can't eat what you don't buy. All right. So in the house,
Preach.
all right. So you want those potato chips. And so I would say this to myself, Michelle, like kill the string bean, potato, whatever those things are. If you want some chips, go to the store, get the small bag where they charge way too much money, where you get like 9 chips, and you already know how many calories you're going to get, and eat those chips, and do not get the family pack and bring them home, because there is nothing good in them and nothing good is going to happen with them. That's number one. Don't bring it into the house. The other thing is close the kitchen. You got to close the kitchen. My husband always says on Friday, he's like, Michelle, are you going to cook? And I'm like, it's Friday. Like, how I roll on Friday. And he's like, are you saying the kitchen is closed? Is it closed? So after you eat dinner, and this is hard, honestly, don't like take my picture out. Don't cut me out of the chat for saying this, but no kidding, close the kitchen down. It is closed. If you have to put, like some type of symbolic chain around the refrigerator, put signs up over the cabinets, but just shut it down. Like, no kidding, it is closed down. And obviously that takes self-control and, and so much more. But those are some of the things that I use.
So now I'm going to push back on Michelle, Shannon. Okay.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Okay, so for all of you or anybody out there who has 4 kids, a husband, and the cousin who comes over all the time, and you're saying close the kitchen, what she is giving you is an alternative. So I do appreciate it. These are all techniques that we have to use. And that big bag of potato chips, Michelle, what I do is this is what I do. Okay, so I know this is my trigger, right? I go and I say, I'm just going to get that bag of chips. So when I feel like I need it, it's there. So it's that big bag. And it's the wrong thing to do. But you're right. It takes that control piece of it to do that. But another good technique is also look at what's on, and you hear it all the time. Look at what's in those ingredients. Look what's in that package. Know all the sugar that's in a Pepsi. All the salt that's in your string beans, and that they're really not string beans sometimes, depending. The veggie chips are not veggie chips. They just have the seasoning of the veggie chips. Learn how to read those things so this is not what I want to put into myself. And that's the exact way that we have to look at life, period. And it's the big thing that we are trying to say, though, it's not an easy choice. It's a choice. It's not something that's going to come overnight. You are going to have pitfalls and fall into it. We do. And I'm just going to say that. At least I do. You guys may not, but at least I do fall into it sometime, and then admit that and don't stay there and keep going. So there are plenty of techniques, that we can tell you to do, but when it comes to what gets done, it's a state of mind. As a man thinketh in his, so is he. And you've got to work on yourself. We cannot force you to do it. I can't force mine to do it. You can look at me all day long and I say, I'm gonna eat them potato chips. I'm sorry. I don't do nothing else. And my big excuse, Michelle and Audrey, is I don't eat anything else messed up. So I can eat my potato chips if I want to. And because I'm eating vegetables, but it's still not the right thing you want to put into your body. So.
I'm about to drive a point home. I'm taking my glasses off. That means I'm serious about that.
No, you started it, Faith. Oh, we got serious Michelle now.
Hey, all right. So I can't speak for the husband because, grown folk do what grown folk do.
Yeah.
When we talk about our babies, now you're right in my wheelhouse.
There you
Because
go. Right.
if we want to be healthy, we have to push the same thing for our
That's
children.
right.
My little
Agreed.
brother is 39, 38. Gosh, I can't believe he's that old, because that means so he has twins and they eat chips and it's just all this junk food around. And I'm just like, Marcus, like, we got to do better. Like studies have already shown that, if your parents are obese, then your children have a good chance of being obese also. So what I started doing with my children when they were young, I kind of stopped that stuff. I didn't start off that way. I'm not going to lie and tell you that. But that sugar Kool-Aid, whatever that stuff was called, I made up my mind. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not buying the sodas. I'm not buying the juice. And I remember my daughter one time saying, because I stopped buying everything because they didn't drink milk. And the only thing that was present was water. She went in the refrigerator and she's like, Mom, this water is so good. And I was like, no, right? Yeah, it is. But if we're going to be healthy, we got to stop giving our kids the bad stuff, saying, well, they're just kids and, like their bodies can metabolism and then they'll work it off. And, they're young, because how we start them out is how they're going to be as adults. And we have to start, feeding into them. We have to start educating them at a young age so they don't develop the problems that we get, and which our young children are getting right now, that we get now in our older age.
Totally agree.
That's an excellent point. I'm so glad Michelle brought that up, because we're seeing children become diabetic younger and younger, having diabetes, and learning to, like I said, either you're replacing some of the food or you're replacing it with an activity. Like I said, I would do my sit-ups instead of eating popcorn or eating during the movie. I replaced it with something. And something that my husband would do, is, especially when he would fast, is he would have a hot drink or a tea, English tea. And because it gives you something to do with your hands and you're just sipping, no calories. It's just, I was like, oh. And so I started doing the tea. But when we're talking about our children, because our children will model, one, I won't say it's a mistake, because it was a good mistake, and it was a good task. I had my daughter read How to Eat to Live. And one time we were at Disney World, and I had ordered some French fries. I was like, okay, we here at Disney, I'm going to get a cup of French fries. And my daughter, maybe 7 or something at the time, moved when they brought the fries, moved it over, and she's like, mommy can't eat that. And then my brother is like, why not? It's not good for her. It's fried, and fried food is not good for her. And just shame me, right? But to this day, she's never been like a French fry eater, because of just kind of teaching her those now ice cream, that's another thing. We both that's another thing. But when she read that book at a young age, and it was so plain, and just me trying to model for her, and as I struggled, and like anytime I would reach for something, really, Mom, when a child is telling you, it does kind of hit a little bit different. But our children, if we teach them, just like Michelle mentioned, if we teach them well and keep some of those things out of their sphere, they're not gonna, it's a big difference when they're, tasting something that is unhealthy and all this, the additives, and so they're like, I'd rather just have an apple, that this is a lot better. I mean, my daughter's been a vegetarian, all her life. And so my students, when I said that she's never had something from Burger King, and they're like, how could you do that to your daughter? I said, she's used to food having color, like red and yellow and green. And I put some brown stuff in front of her. She's like, what is this? I'm not eating it. So children will gravitate to what we teach them, and they actually help to keep us on point too.
Totally
Okay,
agree.
here's my turn to push back on everyone. Okay. We're talking about this very good thing, like making sure that our children are eating well and that they're educated as far as what they're putting in their bodies. At the very beginning of our program, Ikrama started us off talking about the devastation, really, of America and how where the basically the one thing I'm thinking about is food deserts. So people who are watching this, who are thinking about, yes, that sounds great, but it takes me a bus trip to get to the closest place that's going to have something or an abundance of something that is healthy to put into my body or my child's body. What we see is gas stations, liquor stores, not being able to provide me with quote unquote whole foods, right? So talk to them about that, and what are their options when it comes to trying to do the best for their children in that situation.
I'll jump in. When I was studying human movement, and I can't remember the researcher, but anyway, there was a research done on urban children, and they knew that the circumstances in terms of like their food choices, like their home living, that they couldn't change that. So they said, why don't we just take them and get them to exercise? And we'll see if their A1C levels and their cholesterol, and we'll see um, if their blood pressure is going to go down, because just like Sister Audrey said, these are the things we're seeing in our children right now. I mean, it's devastating. And they took them and they just kind of put them on a basketball court. They had them exercise. The food didn't change because they knew that they could not get to Whole Foods. They knew they couldn't get to Fresh Market and Harris Teeter, and get the leanest of meat, and get these great things, these vitamins and minerals. And they took them and they just exercised them. All of their levels came down. The weight didn't change that much, but their internal health picture actually changed. So I will say that to say that the easiest way of doing this when you can't get to those resources, because you're right, it's not going to be available to everyone, just walk. What do you have right now that you can do with no limitations at all? I can stand up right now and just walk in place, and somehow if I do that long enough and I do it, start at one day and then I go to 3 days, and then I say, all right, well, next week, I did 3 days this week. I'm going to do 4 days the next week, and I'm just going to walk in place. Just start with where you are with what you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I like what was just up on the screen is pooling our resources where we can pull our resources, realizing that we are community, which is what you were saying, Shannon, earlier, is that when we see the need, if we can fill that need as a community, we attempt to do that. Food pantries in our churches, those kind of things are helpful as well. We also have the gardens that are coming up, and we have tried to show even little things, if you can just seeds will produce if put in the right place. And if you show your children how to take those seeds and use those, then that's another mechanism. Or we ourselves. Now, we have a big garden in the back. When I say a big garden, you might as well call it a farm back there, where we do raise an awful lot of our crops, and we take it into the church or we will give it away as necessary. But we're also showing people how to do that. And in a lot of our communities, that's happening in a lot of places, and even in the urban environment, is making small gardens. We've got parishioners who are using trash cans just, to put the potatoes. There are too many mechanisms that are available that are cheap, that we can start doing that and building that into not only just our personal, but our neighbors as well, and helping out what can be done. And Michelle, you're right. The thing that we have a tendency to do is thinking that if we don't have a gym, if we don't have a program, that we cannot do anything. When my grandkids are here during the summer, oh my God, it's a list up on the wall. Okay, so we're getting up in the morning and we're going to go out there and we're going to walk or we're going to race, and we make it games. And so you really don't know you are exercising. You're walking the dog, you're running the dogs, you're stretching as you go. Or let's just do some artificial jump hoops wherever you are and make them to exercise. And this is what I have to say my first lady put into place so many years ago when she was our first lady, which was to start working with our children and make exercise count. And so if we take all these things into context, then what we're saying is make a well-rounded individual out of not just the little ones, but all of us. We can put away the excuses. And Michelle, I was thinking, we're getting around to talking about walking. Well, this is walking, so I'm just sitting right here, which is why I'm always in the gym when we're doing it. And that's all you got to do. All you got to do is start touching your toes. And, your kids think it's a game, and your older adults think it's, oh yeah, I'm trying to get better here. Yeah, don't do it that way. Then roll down here, and you got your obliques going, and you're working it out, and you don't even realize it. When you're looking at a commercial, I say it all the time, stand up and do a squat. Call it commercial squats. You can do that. And make sure that you're trying to do something. So I think what we've done is we've made a generation of comfortable people where if it takes any kind of challenge to do it, then we kind of shy away from it. And now we have to recapture that so people will know, no, you can't live in a comfort zone all the time. You got to work a little bit.
Excellent point. And when you said that about the comfort zone, Faith, I was thinking about cooking, putting effort into cooking our own food. Yeah. And one thing that's very economical and that is a very well-rounded, nice amount of protein, carbs is the navy bean. And the navy bean where you can have soup, because I saw there was a comment about, cravings. Two things to keep in mind with cravings, and we might think that we're hungry, is making sure we have enough water, which Michelle mentioned about just making sure that water is there. When we're drinking water, when we're drinking water, we're less likely to munch, and some of those cravings and things like that. And then when we have when we're cooking on our own, we're standing. You can't sit and cook. You're moving around. So all of that is good. And then I wanted to mention about as we are active, whether we're cooking, then making sure that we're walking, which makes us feel good. We're doing or dancing. Like I would have these line dance. I would put all of the Cupid Shuffle, Viker Shuffle, all of them together. And it's like, we're doing all of these. And in 20 minutes, you've just done a workout. And I look at how many steps I've just logged in. So having some line dancing, 30 minutes or whatever, just getting that movement. And then you're less likely to eat, because sometimes children and ourselves, we eat because it's there. We're bored, but when we're filling our, selves with other activities and making sure that we're hydrated, then that can help with some of those cravings. And just 10 minutes of walking uplifts your mood. Just getting outside, seeing the abundance of what God has created can also uplift your mood and make you feel good. Just wanted to share that.
Let's go down that train, that path, Audrey, with uplifting your mood and in general giving you better mental health, right? There's this, we've been talking about how walking or exercise is going to help us, our physical bodies. But yeah, let's shift a little bit and talk about the benefits of our mental bodies, our emotional bodies.
Can I push back on Audrey before we do that?
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
While we're here, wait a minute, before we go to break, because Audrey was saying, well, you can't cook sitting down. But I just want to qualify the statement, because I do have some folks who cannot. They have to roll. They have to be in the seat. They have to. So I don't want anyone to go away saying, well, she's gonna make me stand up and I can't stand. But that's not what your intent was. But even if that is the case and you are sitting, there is that reaching moment that you can do. There's that rolling moment that you can do. So the point that was trying to be made is the fact that when you're cooking yourself, it's intentional. And so make sure that the intent is there. The other thing I wanted to go on is, a lot of times we don't drink water because we feel bloated, right? And what you have to think about is, you're drinking all this water, but it's flushing out all the toxins. So forget about the fact that you feel bloated, and you might, before you get regulated, this is always going to happen. If you are not drinking water, once you start drinking water, you're going to expel it more often. So a lot of people get caught up in the fact that, but I'm going to the bathroom every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes, and that's not what I used to do. Don't be discouraged by that, because your body's going to have to get used to regulating the water and expelling it. And then about a week, 7 days from now, you'll feel like, oh, okay, I can hold it a little bit more than I used to. Now, if you're old, and you can't hold it, that's a different story. That's a
Or
different
if you're young and you can't hold it.
That's right. That's a different conversation. But regulating the water is something you have to get used to. Now, Shannon, that I push back on Audrey.
We should have a pushback button. We're just a little
I
button
know.
that's like,
That's what we said last time.
This is good. Yeah, I do want to talk about this, the mental health game, right? We're talking about our physical health. What about the benefits that we have for our mental health?
So I have a story that I love to share with people. It was a story I heard on NPR, and it was about a young man who had been diagnosed with HIV, and he had mental issues. He was depressed. He stayed in trouble. I don't know where you guys are in the world. I'm in the DC area, and the hospital in our area, I don't know what they use it for now. Actually, I think they turned it into a government building. It was called St. Eve's. And so they took him to St. Eve's, and it's like no one really could control him. So they put him into a room, and they would try to get him to sit down, and he wouldn't. And he said that he would always drag his furniture around. And so he moved his bed in the middle of the room, and he started just walking around his bed. And he said that amazingly, he started feeling better. And he said he just walked around the bed, and then he walked around the hospital. And then as he got better, they discharged him from the hospital. And I'm sure he was on medicine also. But then he signed up for marathons, and he started running marathons. And obviously it did not change the condition of his disease. But he said, I moved myself better. I moved myself to better health. And so just movement alone will help you in so many ways. I listen to Doc Radio from Sirius Radio. They air out of New York. And one of the doctors said, I'm not saying that exercising is going to cure all diseases, but we as doctors don't know anything that comes close to it. You just gotta move, and you have to do, again, what you can where you are right now. You don't have to do the most, as the young people say. You can just like, I think it was Audrey or Faith said, just 10 minutes, just get up and do something, and set reasonable goals. Don't get up one day and say, I'm going to walk 5 miles 2 times a day. It will work probably for about one day. Then the next day, something is going to come up. You're going to have an appointment. And because you didn't hit that marker right off the back, then you're back to square one. So please just set reasonable goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excellent point. And one thing that the benefit of walking, preventative measures, so exercise helps to can help prevent so many diseases and can help improve. So walking lowers the insulin levels. When my father came to live with us, and he's 83 now, and he had an issue with his leg. He's diabetic, high blood pressure. And he, when you're 80, you got a habit of, I want to eat what I want to eat. But when the pandemic happened and he had an issue with his foot, and they were like, you need to have surgery. He ended up having the surgery right before the pandemic. He couldn't go out because everything was locked down, closed down. He couldn't go out to the places that he would usually go. But he had to eat what we were eating. So the bean soup and the vegetarian diet, so on and so forth. Would you believe in 3 months? Because my father was giving himself a shot every day, insulin. Mm-hmm. In 3 months, because of the change of diet, and then we would go outside, get some vitamin D, which is another benefit of going outside and walking. He had to be taken off insulin. He didn't need it anymore. Still, taking some of his medicine for diabetes, but he did not. And I said, don't you feel better? He was like, he would tell people, he wouldn't say vegetarian. He said, I'm almost a vegetarian, because he would still get some, but he said, I feel so much better, and it can help prevent and help improve us in so many different ways if we would just take that one step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So beautiful comments. I thank you all for that. The other thing is that your endorphins will rise, and there is a joy and a peace of the calmness depending upon where you are walking. Difference between running and walking, except when you reach, I believe it is 151 after you reach level 5 of walking, and that's a different conversation. But the thing is that you have a concentration, you're building up endorphins, your toxicity is subsiding because you're getting in the fresh air, you're getting the vitamin B, you're getting the vitamin D, and you're raising that consciousness, that mental consciousness of a piece of walking itself. I will say that we have to couch that around a couple of things. It's just like any other exercise, and that is be mindful of where you're starting, what's your weight when you're starting, where you're going to be walking, carving yourself up, or at least making sure that you are preparing yourself for that walk. So certain things that you need to be eating and prepping could just be peanut butter, it could be a banana before you start walking. There's a difference between incline walking. And so when you're using eccentric and concentric movements, so if I'm going downhill and people don't understand, there's a difference when you're going uphill and then when you're lengthening and you're shortening. Those people who want to walk in high heel sneakers, you can't do that because the balance is going to be and throw you off. If you've got a knee condition, it's a definite way that you want to look, and the pronation of your feet is going to say, okay, do I do on a flat surface? I don't have to be on a treadmill. I can walk just the trails, but even walking in the trails, there's that dip. And the difference between walking on gravel and walking on grass and walking on asphalt. So we're not saying that you just get out there and start walking, but you prepare your body, you prepare your mind, you prepare your spirit for whatever type of exercise you are going to do. And that's when you start getting the happy glads on the inside, because I've made it down my driveway and I'm feeling pretty good, right? And I'm just excited because I'm out here and I'm with the Lord and ain't nobody bothering me and I'm walking, and you get just beautiful feeling on the inside. And walking is not going to be as strenuous as it is if you're going to be running or doing anything else. So make the pace important for you. The one thing I don't want anybody to get too overconfident about is how far you walk. All right. Because you really don't have to walk that far. When you talk about 10 minutes, depending upon what your gait is, you may only make it down to the bottom of your driveway. And that's good. I started, I'm there, I'm feeling hyped. And so walking like any other exercise is the hype that you mentally put into it and say, oh my God, I did 2 push-ups. I did 5 steps. I am feeling like I'm on top of the world. And grab that feeling and go with it. And then if you're walking with somebody else, keep the breaths where you can be talking and just having fun with it. I say if you can't have fun exercising, why exercise at all? Right? So
Absolutely.
mentally.
Absolutely. I want to we're coming up on wrapping up here, and I want us just to think about it. One of the things that you all haven't really focused on is I haven't said anything. I haven't heard you say we exercise to lose weight, right? I want to just remind everybody that as experts, you all have talked about exercising for connection with your family, exercising to be out in the world, as far as like in nature, getting vitamin D, Audrey said, just making sure that you are lowering cholesterol, these types of things. I haven't heard the word swimsuit like one time since we've been together. And I think it's a very powerful conversation, just to reiterate the other reasons we exercise. And if you all could just sparkle in that for a little bit.
So one of the reasons, the main reasons why I exercise, yeah, I don't want like the health problems, but I do it because I want to be on as less pills as I get older as I can. That's the bottom line. One of the things I had on the notes to myself is that we can blame the doctor, we can blame our parents, we can blame whoever else because there's always going to be something, but really it's our responsibility. And if we put that responsibility and blame the doctors, because of what our health is or what it's not, we will always be defeated. So we have to be responsible for ourselves. There are studies that show that Blacks are looked at differently when they go to the doctor. We're given different prescriptions or not. White people have more surgeries, are pushed for more surgeries than we are. And especially when it comes to like glaucoma and blood pressure. And I just don't want to go to the doctor for people to say, well, Michelle, no, take 10 milligrams of this one and it's 15 here. If I can control that and I have control of that right now where I am, that's my reason for wanting to stay healthy by exercising and eating correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing about, our well-being, and everything feels better when you're healthy. There are a lot of skinny, unhealthy people. So it's not even about weight. If I'm 120 and I feel horrible and I got all these other health ailments and I can't even enjoy wearing a whatever size, then what's the point? You do something, as someone mentioned, you do something that you enjoy, that you can make it a habit, such as walking. That's easy on the joints, that you can just make it a habit. You can get your children involved, your family involved. But if we focus on our well-being, self-care, just what is good for me and what's going to help to continue to give me more longevity, and that I can enjoy life more, because I'm going to be able to enjoy the money I have. I'm going to be able to enjoy my family. I'm going to be able to enjoy traveling. Who, you ever been on a trip and you got sick? You can't enjoy it,
Right.
So health is wealth. It really is, if we truly understand.
Absolutely. Yes.
I've
Faith.
got to.
I
I'm not
see
pushing
you.
back on anybody. No, I'm not. I totally agree. I've got to do a seminar in a couple of months called The Soul of Fitness. And it's built around the premise of the exact same thing. It is considering the fact that I want to live and I want to live well to the best of my ability. There are, and I do ask the question, what are you here for? And if you're here just to get in the dress, that means after you've gotten in that dress, guess what? You'll be trying to get in another dress, or you will have gained it back. And it happens so often. It's just a yo-yo effect. But if you're here because you want not only your physical, but your spiritual and your mental and your social well-being to be well-rounded, then you're in the right place. Because we just said your mind controls so much. The way you think about things controls so much. We've said you are what you eat. We said we have to exercise, to keep your muscles intact no matter what age you are. We've gone through all those things. So it's the inner man that becomes more prevalent for me to try to get into good shape, and your body falls in place afterwards. So yeah, to live and to live well.
Living and living well. This is very important. I wanted to share that I remember as a young adult that I was in a hotel room and I woke up. I didn't get out of bed, but I woke up and I saw my mom just walking back and forth. And in my head, I was like, look at that crazy woman. She's just, she was like walking and punching the air. And I was like, man, my mom is woof. And then like literally a week ago, I was in the middle of walking and punching in a hotel room, and I was like, no, what's happening? And I shared that because what you all have talked about is my mom to this day walks and punches the air. But the thing is that she's doing all the things that you're talking about. She's traveling. She and my dad ride motorcycles. They do.
Sweet.
Right. But it comes from all the things that you all have been talking about, which is she used to play tennis in community. She drinks a lot of water. She eats vegetables and healthy things, and she moves, and she has never once, to my knowledge, been in a gym. That's not her thing. She doesn't lift weights. She doesn't do any of that. What she does is exactly what you're saying. She stands during the commercials. She rolls her shoulders when she brushes her teeth, all of these types of things. And it's really important. It's really important. And I want you, as we are wrapping down, wrapping down, both things are true. We're closing out. What would you say? Two questions. One, what's some advice that you would give your younger self, knowing what you know now, your younger self about fitness? And if it's different, what's some advice that you would give our viewers and everyone in the chat?
Ooh. I got to think on that one, guys.
I'll say, understand the why. Like why are you doing it? Like, are you doing it because like someone else is doing it, because someone says that you should do it? Just one example. Gosh, everything always turns into a story with me, but I'm going to make this one really, really quick. And I know you guys have already heard this, but it was a wife and the husband. They were in a kitchen and she was fixing the pot roast and she was cutting part of it off. And her husband's like, why do you cut it off? And she says, because my mother did it. And then she called her mother, and her mother says, well, because my grandmother did it. And then when they got down to the why, it was because the pan wasn't large enough. And that was just like, so like, just so enlightening for me, just to understand like your behaviors, like ask yourself, why are you doing this? Like, so if you're sitting and not moving around, was it because someone told you? Like, are you challenging the system and challenging some of those beliefs and some of those generational pass downs of some that are, like not good and some that are really, really not good? But to kind of step outside of yourself and just kind of look and understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and what that really means to you and your future.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent point. I would say I would tell my younger self to pay more attention to what I'm putting in my body and looking at ingredients, which I do more so now because it does motivate me. Because I was not one. I remember my as I was transitioning with stopping to eat meat and things like that, and my sister said one time, and I was stuffing my face, and she said, "You may not eat pig, but you eat like one." And I was like, that hurt me, because I was overeating, but understanding what I'm eating, I'm telling you, was one of the greatest gifts to have, because it affects us in so many other ways. The additives, preservatives that they put in food, how the sugar, the extra sugar that they put in food that our children aren't aware of, and they're addicted to a food, to these sugary foods, and how it affects their behavior. Working as a teacher, and how my daughter even saw could taste the difference, like after she learned how to make her own chocolate chip cookies, and then you buy a store-bought chocolate chip cookie. I mean, it's a big difference. So when you just have that gift of understanding what's in certain foods, and just eating whole foods, not going to Whole Foods, because that's whole paycheck. They take all your money, but just eating and understand, just eating basic foods, simple foods, apples, oranges, our vegetables, and how fulfilling they are. So that's one thing I would definitely, and just keep moving. Just keep moving, girl. That's what I would tell myself.
For a while in my house, we had a phrase that it was, if it doesn't grow, it doesn't go. And then, which
That's
just
good.
it just meant it doesn't go in here. Did it grow out of the ground? Then it doesn't come inside.
I love that. I love that. I'll be quick. Mine is simply, it's okay to be you. I was always known as an energizer bunny, so people would always look down on me for having so much energy. So you grow up feeling guilty for being happy, for having energy. And I was playing kickball the day before I delivered my first son, so it's like, how dare you do that? And I think I tell myself the same thing today. It's okay to do you, and that keeps me motivated and wanting to exercise and wanting to be the best I could be. So to everybody out there, it's okay. Do you, be you.
Do you and be you. This is amazing. We've talked about so many things. We've shared our stories, we've shared our lives, we've stretched, we've taken breaths. I was going to just snip it, but because you're here, will you give everyone just one exercise each that they can do literally right now? One different exercise that they can do, and think about it, something that probably most people can do that is going to just give them something that they can they don't have to go out, they can start their journey with.
Chair cardio. I have to do it. Chair cardio. Just sit there while you're going.
Perfect.
So I'm sitting at a table, and women are mostly weak with their chest. So, and this is too close to me, but what I would do sitting here, and I would just kind of come down and push myself back up. No excuses. You're right there at the table. You just got finished eating. All right, you're not going to do cardio, so just do a little bit of strength training, push-ups against the table.
like it.
And I would just say, move more. There was a video I watched, and it talked about how our calf muscles just are, if we would right now just lift our heels off the ground, up and down, up and down, up and down, that actually helps to increase our metabolism, and our calf muscles just are made to keep going, because we're walking, we're walking beings. And I found that so fascinating. And so if I'm sitting down, which a lot of us are, maybe at an office or something like that, is something. And the last thing, just that, as Faith mentioned about stretching, but I always say stretch. Everyone put your hands up. Now put them up an inch higher, and watch how, this is a reminder. There's always something more we can do. Even though I say high as you can, there's always something more we can do. I'll end on that.
More. I love that. There's always something more you can do. Yes. Start with what you have. Start where you are. And while you are starting where you are, we are ending where we are right now. But I just want to say thank you to each of you so very much for being here. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Audrey, for your wisdom and passing it along to us. If you in the chat have enjoyed this, please join us next time for Makerpreneurship, the business of craft. And our panelists will be talking about their creative process and business journeys. And that is on April 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have the Pieces Collective Juneteenth 5K Walk for Wellness, and this is their third annual Juneteenth 5K. So please join for Sunday, June 18th and or Monday, June 19th, 2023. That's this year. So look up Pieces Collective, the Pieces Collective, and make sure that you join the Juneteenth 5K. Again, thank you very much to all of our panelists for your inspiration. And thank you very much to Ikrama Mohammed and Karen Freeman for gathering us together through the Pieces Collective. And of course, we don't do any of this without you in the chat. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us today. Good luck on your journey, and we will see you next time. Good night.
I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert. With a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes, I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle, so swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built a new ark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name. All praises, I am the one who would say, I sowed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in